Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about fire. Fire, fascinating stuff, huh? On some level, I'm a pyromaniac, but not literally, because the word pyromaniac does have a lot of negative connotation behind it. It's suggesting that you have an obsession with fire, which I don't. I have an interest in fire, but an obsession would be perhaps you go start forest fires, or burn people's houses down just for fun. Or maybe you sit alone in a room with nothing going on except for you talking to yourself and lighting matches and staring at the fire dancing. It's not like that. It's not. It's not an obsession, but it is an interest, and in this case pertaining to survival. Now, the word survival is specific. There's lots of terms or words that mean something similar to survival, but not quite. There are subtle differences. I'll give you an example of this. You have survival versus bushcraft. Bushcraft is a form of survival, but it's more of a lifestyle. It's more of a long-term thing. Whereas survival suggests short-term, emergency, not something you did on purpose, accidental survival. That's the kind of thing that comes to mind when someone says survival. I don't think someone who purposely went to go live in the woods for 3 months, because of whatever reason, that's not survival. That's just, I don't know, self-reliance maybe. There's lots of terms. Primitive living, self-preservation, some people might say, just try not to die. But they all come down to basically you chilling out with Mother Nature and trying to live to see the next day. That's all it boils down to. Now, survival basically brings you down to life's necessities. Not stuff we enjoy doing, not stuff we like doing, stuff we need to do in order to continue to breathe and function, okay, to live. What do we need to live? There are basic needs. Food and water are very big things. Shelter comes to mind. Now, shelter and fire and stuff like that is kind of subjective to where you are. There's certain places you can live without fire, and there's certain places you can live without shelter. But I would say, generally speaking, you're going to need some form of shelter and usually fire. Because fire is very multifunctional, okay? It's used not only to give you heat, but let's say you're in a hot environment. You don't need heat. That's never an issue for you. Well, you'd still like to, say, cook your food. That's a preference. You don't always need to cook your food, but certainly something you'd like to do. It offers quite a bit. A lot of people will say it offers morale. But this is, again, leaning more towards a survival situation. You don't necessarily need morale if you're doing a long-term bushcraft project, or that's become your lifestyle where you do bushcraft. Anyway, it's enough talking about that crap. I think you kind of get what I'm saying. But fire. I focus on fire because it's the most enjoyable. I don't find building shelters to be fun. A lot of you guys out there do. I think that's cool. I've personally built shelters. I have not stayed in them. I will openly admit right now, which I think is very important for a lot of you guys to do, is that as much as I like bushcraft and I love the idea of prepping for survival and learning these different skills, it's very fascinating, but for me, it is completely a hobby. I don't feel that at this point in my life, with my current skills, that I can go out into the woods and survive more than, say, 2 or 3 days. Honestly, I definitely have more skills than the average person. I will last longer than lots of people, and I could probably say most people. I'm confident in saying that, but I do not consider myself a survivor in that sense. I do not have the confidence or the skill set needed to go live out in the elements for a long duration of time. It's just not going to happen. And my fear is that there's a lot of people out there who do feel that after watching, say, an episode of Bear Grylls or Survivor Man or something, that they think that they're going to be able to do the same thing. Okay, it's very deceiving. Watching television programs and YouTube videos and learning certain things, yeah, you get a confidence about it, but don't be overconfident. I'm here now to, pull you back a peg and let you know that you're not all that. And that's just the truth. And I am no different. I am no exception to that. I am not all that. And I can make friction fires. Lots of people can't do that. But I'm not successful at it all the time. Nor do I feel like if someone literally just, blindfolded me and threw me in a van, drove me in the middle of nowhere, and left me for dead, I'm not confident that I can go hang out there and have a good time for a couple months. You know, it's just not going to happen. When the stress level comes up and the fear really starts to kick in and the hunger kicks in and maybe the elements, you know, you're cold, your dexterity and your fingers don't work, all these different factors really add up to you dying. That's just reality. So please understand that just because you watch some television shows or some YouTube videos, or you can go ahead and, you know, make a cool fire in your backyard, or, you know, say a debris hut, it doesn't make you a survivor. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying it to be real. I would hate to think that someone would maybe further their hike in the woods or further their camping experience having confidence of something that's not realistic. It's dangerous. So anyway, that's enough preaching. I am just openly admitting to myself, if nothing else, on video that I am not all that, and I love this stuff, but I am not a professional. Nor do I ever think that I'll have enough time or energy to devote myself to getting the proper skills to be a true survivor. You know, what it truly means. But that being said, it's still very fun to watch the videos and informative. You know, there's lots of skills that I've obtained through these videos and through these television programs that the average person might not have otherwise. So that's cool. And it will certainly help you to survive. I'm just saying, a lot of you guys out there, be honest with yourself, okay? You can't just go walking into the woods or walk out into the desert and just, you know, kick back and enjoy it, all right? You're going to be crying and scared and sucking your thumb and not be able to do everything you thought you can do. So let's move on. I have 4 different methods of fire making here, and I'm going to go over each one briefly, tell you all about it. But what I want to focus on is what these tools or implements actually give you, okay? And this is important, the details here. So first, let's talk about this. Oh, don't you love the Altoids tin? I'll tell you, when the whole survival thing hit the scene, Altoids made a killing because everyone out there has got an Altoids survival kit or a knife kit or a little fire kit in this case. And yeah, Altoids made it big. I think it's a big conspiracy. It's Bear Grylls is getting a fat check from Altoids. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, Altoids are good, and they were good before survival hit the scene. By the way, these are the best Altoids. Dark chocolate with cinnamon centers. Or it's not cinnamon centers, it's dark chocolate covered Altoids, but cinnamon flavored. Totally nothing to do with that. I don't know why I mentioned that kind of stuff. It's kind of fun, isn't it? All right, so here I have what I would consider my little primitive fire kit. I have a piece of carbon steel. It's a striker. It's specifically forged and shaped into a striker form. So this goes over your 3 fingers here on your hands, and you have a nice flat surface here for striking. I'll give you an example of this in a minute. Then I have 2 pieces of flint. Here's a piece of English flint, and here's a piece of random flint. I don't know what kind this is or anything. See the difference? Quite different, even though they're both flint. There's many different forms of it. Of course, there's lots of different rocks and stuff, natural materials you can find that will create sparks, such as chert, you know, all kinds of things out there. I personally have not found any in my area. Both of these were purchased on eBay for 80 cents almost a year ago now. When I first started getting into this stuff, I went on eBay to look for flint so I can have a little kit here. So anyway, I do have more flint as well. That's why I got this striker as well. eBay. Long time ago. They probably still have stuff like this, I would assume. But anyway, besides there, I have a piece of jute twine in here to make a little bird's nest. And this is jute twine. J-U-T-E twine. Okay, you see jute rugs. And I'm trying to, you know, stress the T because my natural Jersey accent, when I say jute, jute. The T is almost non-existent, just the way I say it. And I can't tell you how many people sent me messages when I first started doing videos on stuff like this. And they said, look, I went to my store, I asked for that Jew twine, and no one has it. I'm like, what? Jew twine? Like J-E-W, Jew. A Jew. Yeah, well, if you walk into a store and ask for Jewish twine, of course no one's going to help you find it because it doesn't exist. At least I don't believe it does. This may or may not be kosher. I don't know. But jute, J-U-T-E. Sorry for the accent. Anyway, great stuff. So I have some of that, and I have some baggies here. Let's see, these 2 have char cloth in it, and this one has, actually they're all 3 are dry cloth. They're all 3 are packed with char cloth, okay? Which we'll talk about in a second. I'll leave one of these out. I I was questioning it because I used to keep a little baggie of dryer lint in here as well. So anyway, yeah, char cloth, if you don't know, basically it's a piece of cotton that's been cooked. And by cooked, I mean, you know, you put it in some kind of a container, usually a little tin can, you do a little cover, poke a hole in it to let the vapors escape. And what you're doing is you're basically breaking it down into just carbon. It very easily catches and holds a spark, okay, which will create an ember, which you can then use to create fire. Very, very effective. The one downside to char cloth is it's very cool in bushcraft and wilderness, you know, survival stuff and, you know, camping. That's awesome, right? But guess what? In a survival situation, if you don't have it, you won't have it, at least for that first fire, because it takes fire to make char cloth. Kind of a catch-22, right? It's really good to start a fire, but if you really need a fire that first time, you don't have it because you can't make it without fire. It's kind of weird, isn't it? But anyway, good stuff, not very good that first time. So, yeah, here's the flint and steel. How this works here is the flint has a very sharp edge and it's very, very hard. Extremely, extremely hard. By the way, this is carbon steel, okay, not stainless, only carbon. And the idea here is that you have a kind of a sharp edge, all right, and you strike a piece of carbon steel on the flint. Now the flint being harder, it actually will scrape off little particles or pieces, very small pieces of the steel. But because you're doing it in a fast, quick motion, you have friction, and that friction will heat up those tiny little particles super red hot, in fact glowing hot, okay, to its melting point. It happens so fast and so quick, but all those little tiny little pieces of now melting steel are sparks. So very fascinating. And I'll give you a little example here. Try to see if I can get it on camera. You guys can probably see that. So anyway, yeah, it's really fun. It's very cool. And you take a little piece of char cloth and you kind of put it under your thumb here, right on the edge, and as you strike, hopefully one of those sparks lands on the char cloth, and you can create an ember. Very, very cool. But what does using flint and steel give you? Okay, this doesn't give you fire. These are fire-making tools, but this does not produce fire and never will. What this produces is sparks. Okay, so these tools or implements give you sparks, and if you're very skilled in using it, you're almost perfectly guaranteed sparks every time. But that's all you get, sparks. You're not guaranteed fire. So now let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the very common ferrocerium rod, okay, or fire steel. This happens to be a fire steel brand, fire steel, but I think these in general are just referred to as fire steels. Doesn't matter what brand it is. Little tiny handle, very convenient, and a piece of ferrocerium. All right. This is used in the same manner, only you're scraping instead of kind of slapping at it. Okay, you take a piece of steel. A lot of times these will come with their own little strikers or a little, you know, hacksaw blade or whatever. And basically, as you strike over, it will, if I can give a good grip here, create sparks. You know what? Let me get on this side of the camera so you can actually see the sparks and not my hand. Alright, so everyone can hopefully see those. Nice, pretty, shiny sparks. So, the difference between this and this takes much less skill. Far less skill. Anyone can put a piece of, you know, metal on this and just kind of go like that and just create sparks. Very simple. Now this is a flat piece of steel, but some of the strikers are grooved, so they're even easier to use, okay? They're actually almost like, you know, serrated, so it creates more surface area, and it's very easy to use, okay? Big advantages, by the way, to both of these will work in any weather condition. It can be pouring rain, you don't have to worry about it not working, okay? This will definitely give you guaranteed sparks for anyone, okay? And by the way, both of these do not use a fuel source, another great thing. But they're tools that are creating sparks. That's what you're getting. You're not guaranteed fire with this. It's a fire-making implement, but it doesn't give you fire. It just gives you sparks. So far, we have two very cool little systems here, but they're not guaranteed fire. What do you need in addition to these tools to create fire? You need some knowledge. You need to know what to do with these sparks, because all these can do is guarantee you sparks. So now you have sparks, what do you do with them? Well, that's up to you to gain the knowledge and really learn how to use these tools properly. Let's talk about another fire making tool. This is one of my favorites. It's a primitive method. Just like this, the flint and steel, like this, was mostly used by the Vikings in the Viking era. Okay, this is mostly used, I would say, in the current era. Maybe, I don't know when these first came out, but I want to say maybe like 1940 or 50. It could be way past that. I could be wrong. But anyway, in the last couple decades, this is the most popular way to make fire. So here we have a fire piston. This is still used today by some tribes around the world to create fire. All right, what we have here basically is a body and a plunger. Okay, the plunger fits into the body. It's a perfect fit. Okay, now this is supposed to have, it was taken off for storage purposes, but it's supposed to have a little bit of a wrap of, I can use a piece of jute twine and just a little bit of lubricant on top of it, so you have a perfect seal, because that's what you need in a fire piston, a perfect seal. Now the idea here is there's a little notch cut out. You put a little piece of char cloth or dried tinder in there, and you put this in the tip of the body, and then you push down as fast as you can. Okay, now what are you doing? By pushing down, it fits perfectly in here. So now there's a chamber inside, an empty space. Now when you push down, you're forcing all of that air into a small portion of that body. Okay, by doing that very quickly, you're basically condensing or raising the pressure of the air inside this. Now by doing that, you're also creating heat. A quick drop in pressure like that creates heat. Think of lightning. Lightning works the same way. It has to do with pressure, and you get, lightning is just a massive spark in the sky. When the pressures drop very quickly like that, you get a spark. All right, so by doing this, you get a spark or heat. Do it really quick, and that will give you a little ember. Okay, your little tinder will have an ember in it now. So, what does this tool offer you? All right, this tool offers you an ember, which already is better than both of these, right? Because a spark is the first point of creating fire from scratch, pretty much. Then you take your spark to try to create an ember. You surpass a spark with this tool, but you have a huge downside to this. This takes quite a bit of skill. It's hard to use a fire piston, and it's not as reliable, not nearly as reliable if you don't have that skill or, say the proper tinders, to using it. So you might think it might have advantage because you're skipping the whole spark thing and you're going right to the ember, which seems easier. But it does take quite a bit of skill. I don't think it's nearly as reliable for the average person. Now, for the tribesmen who've been using this their whole life since they're a little kid, it's totally fine and adequate, and obviously works good because they're still around living, But for me, it's very novelty. I think it's awesome. It's really cool, and it's very rewarding when you start a fire with fire piston. It's like, wow, man, I did it. It's just like doing a fire by friction. It's just very rewarding. It's not easy to do. It's challenging. So when you are successful in it, you feel good about yourself. It feels cool. So out of all three of these things, what do we have? This is creating sparks. This is creating sparks. This is creating an ember. This takes very little skill. So far, it's definitely the best out of all these. This takes a lot of skill, and this is kind of somewhere in between. All three of these will work if it's pouring out. Doesn't matter what the weather condition is. As long as you can function, these will function fine. All right, so awesome, awesome, awesome. And none of these really take fuel, unless you're talking about your tinder itself. Then yes, that is a fuel source. But out of all three of these, I think that the most effective way to make fire is still not present. So let's just break that out right now. The lighter. The lighter / matches. Okay, lighter being more effective than matches, but both producing fire. This tool or implement doesn't give me a spark. Okay, if it doesn't have any fuel, it gives me a spark. But its purpose is to create fire. So now I'm trying to make a fire with fire, which every single day of the week, 24/7, will be more effective than trying to make a fire with a spark, or an ember. So don't discount the lighter. I think a lot of you guys who put kits together and you go camping and everything out, some of you leave lighters out of the equation. You say, oh, you know, I got like 3 or 4 ferrocerium rods. That's awesome. And by the way, if you are carrying a lighter when you go camping or hiking, whatever, make sure you carry these too. They really go hand in hand. These two things and multiple of them. I would keep a fire steel in your pocket with a lighter. I would also keep a lighter and a separate fire steel in, say, your jacket pocket. You know, I would also keep a third set in your bag, because when you're out and about, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't, first of all, you don't obviously want to rely on one form or one source of fire. You want multiple sources of fire. But in a real life-threatening situation, you don't want to screw around with this, okay? Yes, it could be effective, but as everyone's talked about before, which has been proven, once stress levels go up, your thinking really dwindles, all right? And your thought process, it goes down. And fear kicks in, and like I said, perhaps the elements, it's going to be harder to create a fire. I don't care how good you are with this. It's definitely easier, and this can't be debated. Okay, this has to be unanimously agreed upon or concurred that starting a fire with fire will always be easier than starting a fire with sparks. Now, there are downsides to a lighter. First of all, this does have a fuel source. Okay, in order to have fire from this implement or tool, you need that fuel. So that's limited. This comes back to have 3 or 4 lighters on you. It shouldn't be a problem, you know? But even if this does run out of fuel, you're back to, okay, you're creating sparks with it, which is still effective like this. But yeah, I just want to, you know, get that information out there, because some people forget about that stuff. It's very easy to get caught up in the fun, primitive, cool ways of making fire, and a lot of you guys out there own these fire steels. They're very effective, they're very good, but I think if you're going out and you want to really be prepared, have multiple lighters and fire steels together. These two things, very cool. I would not want them in a real life situation, okay? If I really have to, you know, rely on this to create a fire to save my life, I don't want anything to do with them. They're fun hobbyish to me, okay? We've progressed in society. We don't need a fire piston or flint and steel to make fire, because we have created this, because we are oh so smart. I didn't mean to give, there's free publicity to the cigarette factory outlet. I don't remember when I got this lighter. This was years ago. This was in my my original Bob bag in the bottom. But there you go, if you want to call them. Anyway, yes. Now matches versus lighter. Matches, like a lighter, will give you fire, but are definitely less reliable. The only advantage with matches are that you don't have a fuel source, okay? But we all know when most regular matches get wet, they're shot, they're garbage, okay? Matches, for the most part, are only as good as their striker. You can have 1,000 matches, but if that striker gets wet and torn, you can't light them. Now, you can say, well, what about strike anywhere matches? Yes, that's an exception. Most matches are not strike anywhere matches. In fact, it's very hard to find strike anywhere matches these days. But anyway, the lighter, don't discredit it. It's the easiest, most effective, just really the best option to start a fire, okay? But it's also least fun. So I think when you watch these shows, and you watch Bear Grylls, and you watch Survivor Man, you know, and, you know, Dave Canterbury, which is an awesome guy, and I give him plenty of credit, and I look up to him because he's a guy who's always had this interest. What he does, and by the way, if you don't know who I'm talking about, Dave Canterbury, he has a YouTube channel. In fact, he was discovered from YouTube and has gone on to have a very successful show on Discovery Channel, Dual Survivor, with Cody Lundin, another interesting character. But Dave, first off, he's a down-to-earth guy. Okay, he's straightforward. He's not pompous. He's not egotistical. He's just who he is. You know, he's real. He's a real dude. And he's been doing this crap for longer, you know, than YouTube has existed. And he just decided to make a channel and show what he likes to do. And he was able to get some success from that. And I think that's amazing. You know, he's able to provide for his family even more so because of his hobby. Awesome success story. Fantastic. But if you talk to him personally, if you ever get a chance to talk to him, he'll probably agree with this. I don't see how he couldn't. You know, all this stuff's fun. But if you're really seriously walking out into the elements and taking a chance on some kind of an adventure or journey, don't discredit the lighter. Make sure you have them. Make sure you have multiple lighters. So anyway, I just want to talk about that a little bit. Anyway, just wanted to make a video on that and just remind myself that I'm not all that, and to hopefully humble you guys and let you guys know that you're not all that. Very, very few of you out there are. And very, very few of you who really are into this hobby have it as a hobby, and it's not a lifestyle. Whereas, for example, Dave Canterbury, just using him as an example, it's definitely more of a lifestyle for him, and I think he can definitely go out into the woods more confidently than most of you guys. So anyway, it's kind of leave it to the professionals kind of a thing. You know, I consider myself I think I've said this before, jack of all trades, master of none. I know a little bit about everything, but not everything about a little bit. So this for me is just another very fun, interesting hobby. Now that being said, please don't be discouraged to watch bushcraft videos and survival videos, because any bit of information you can collect and gain will definitely help you and will increase your chances of surviving if need be. But just please don't think that if you watch YouTube videos or read a book or two on surviving in the wild, that you're able to do it. Okay, reality will set in, and you will definitely be in a very dangerous situation. So just be careful. That's all. I think I never made a fire with a fire piston on video. I've only demoed it and showed creating an ember. But maybe I'll do a video in the future of that. And you know, you don't need a video of me making a fire with this, because that's just, it's so overdone. There's millions out there. My fire is no cooler than your fire. However, I may or may not do videos on friction fires, specifically the bow drill. I have yet to be successful with the hand drill. Okay, I've never had success making a fire with a hand drill, but I have had success 3 times with a bow drill, and the times that I failed were mainly because of my wood choice. And at first, when I first started doing friction fires, I didn't understand density of wood and types of wood. I just thought it worked with all wood, and it doesn't. There's definitely some details there that are usually left out in videos. So perhaps I'll do a video on that in the future. But I got some other stuff planned. I got some knife reviews I want to do soon, and some other things. But hopefully this video has just kind of, you know, made you think. That's what all these videos are for. They're really just to entertain you, maybe educate a little bit, but really just to make you think about stuff. And if you got anything to add and you got a camera, please feel free to make a video response. They're always welcome, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I thank you very much for your time and for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you soon. Take care.